Welcome guys to today's lecture. Today it's day 12 of month 2, and we're still going to be learning about Django, right? So first things first, can you all go into your Django folder, activate your virtual environment, and after activating your virtual environment, you can then you change your directory to the config folder, right? So for today, we're going to be looking at Django URLs, views, get requests, path parameters, query parameters, and simple filtering. Right. So are we all ready to begin today's lecture? Okay, great. So I've already activated my virtual environment, and I've already changed my direction to what? To the config project, right? So first things first, I want us to talk about requests, URLs, and views, right? So before we start writing code, we need to understand what happens when someone communicates with Django, or when someone communicates with the server, right? So okay, let me just say day 12.py, right? Let's say let's say user goes to the browser and types something like this. Let's just say telai.co.zw, right? The browser sends out a request to the backend, or rather to Django, right? Then Django then looks at its URL configuration and asks, do I have a URL pattern that matches this, right? If Django or any backend server finds a matching URL, it then connects that URL to what? To a Python function. That Python function is called a view, right? So remember that Python function is called what? A view, right? So the view performs whatever work we need. It might retrieve information, calculate something, search a database, validate information, or simply return some JSON file, right? So the view then sends what? A response back to the user, right? Right. So I want us to create our first views, right? So I want us to create our first views. So where you create your first views is in your app, right? The app that you created yesterday. So yesterday we created what? Students. So this is the app. Config is our project, right? So under the student folder, you have what? Views.py, right? So you open what? Views.py, right? So inside this Python file, views.py, this is where we created our views. So whenever a website or a mobile application or anything talks with our server, this is the file that's going to initiate the conversation, right? So Django automatically created this file for us, right? So inside views.py, what we are going to create functions that are going to hang requests, right? So first we need to import the JSON response, right? So to import the JSON response, we just have to say from Django.http, right? Import JSON response, right? So when you install Django on your machine, Django installed all of these modules, right? So they come pre-installed with Django, right? So now that we have created our first view, we have now imported JSON response, right? We're then going to create a function, right? and we're going to call this function what? Home. Right? We're going to call this function home, right? And it's going to take a parameter with the value of request. Note, always use request, right? You can use request, you can change it to anything that you want, but always use request. It's going to make it easy for you if you use the same variable everywhere. So whenever you create a view and you are creating a function, always use request, right? So we created our function called at home, and this function is just going to what? To return what? JSON response. And the JSON response, let's just say it's what? Message, right? Let's just say home page. Always remember that JSON is also like a Python dictionary, right? It's always what? It's a key value pair, right? And when working with views, whenever you're creating your function, it always going to take one parameter, right? As long as that function is going to be a view. So a view is what is going to be our URL. We're going to get into that later, right? So if your function is going to be a view, then it will always take what? A parameter called request. If your function is going to be a helper function, then it cannot. Then you can leave with that function without what? A request, right? Right. So here we created a function called DOM, and our function receives one parameter request, right? Whenever someone accesses the URL connected to this view, Django automatically passes information about the incoming request into this request variable, right? So this means that this request variable is very important, right? But for now, we're not doing anything complicated with it, right? Then we just return JSON response. Now, here we're using the return keyword. If we used the print function, then it was just going to print out on the terminal. But we don't want it to print on the terminal. Instead, we want it to print on the front end. So that this is why we use what? The return keyword instead of the print function. Like if we use the print function, then the response is going to just stay in the server. If you want if you want the response to show on the front end, you have to use the return keyword, right? So let's create another view, right? Let's call it def get students, right? Request, and then return JSON response, right? Students, let's say students is going to be a list, right? And in our list, we're going to have Brandon, John, Nyasha, and Tadiwa, right? Now we have another view, and this view just returns 4 students: Brandon, John, Nyasha, and Tadiwa, right? Right. So let's create another view. We're going to call it get courses, right? Going to be request, return JSON response again. So we're going to return what? The courses, right? Courses, and it's going to be a list again. We have Python, we have Django, and we have databases, right? So we now have another view, right? So these are the views that we have currently, and if you notice on our views, so far we're not doing anything with this request keyword, right? Even though we're not doing anything with it, we are still supposed to pass this request keyword whenever you are creating your view, right? So later in the course we're going to get into it about what this request keyword does. Okay, right? So one thing to you guys should know that is very important: creating a view does not automatically create a URL, right? We have written the functions, but Django still does not know which URL should be called by each function, right? So this is where we are going to go next, right? So inside our app again, which is going to be what? Students, right? We need a file called urls.py. Now the issue is that Python doesn't Django doesn't create that app for us. If you check, we have init, we have admin, apps, models, tests, views, right? And we need a file called that urls.py. So we need to create that file for ourselves, and we're going to call it urls.py, right? Make sure that you create the file inside your students app, right? So now we have created our urls.py, right? This is where we'll go. This is where yes, Mr. Django.
On the main folder, you right clicked on. What did you do to create another file inside the application?
Here on the name of our folder, our root folder, here on top we have new file, new folder, right? So I just clicked on new file and it created that a file for me. So now you need to make sure that the file that you're going to create is going to be inside what? Your students app. If it's outside the students app, it's fine, you can still move it. You can just simply right click the file and then move it into the folder that you want to move it into, right? But for me, it created it automatically inside what? The students folder.
Was you opening the students folder?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, it's okay, I understand.
Okay, so inside the urls.py, right, we're going to write two scripts. We're going to write two import scripts, right? The first one is going to be from, right, Django dot urls import path, right? Then the second one is going to be from dot import views, right? So this also comes pre-installed with Django, right? So the first line is just imports Django's path function, which is this one, right? Then the second line, this one, it imports our views.py. So which is going to be what? It's going to be this one, right? So since our views.py and our urls.py are in the same folder, right, we just use from dot because they're in the same folder. If you write from dot, you're supposed to see the file. If you don't see the file, if you say dot again, you're now moving back outside what? Outside students. We're now inside what? The main config file, right? Then if I say slash, okay, it's not right. If I say another dot, I keep on moving back out of what? Out of our structure, right? So the dot just means that get out of this file go outside this file and look for a certain whatever file that you're looking for, right? So inside this URLs.py, we're going to create what we call URL patterns, right? So it's going to be URL patterns equals to, and it's going to be a list, right? And inside that list, we're going to have what? Path, right? And then we use what? A quotation marks, leave it empty, a comma, views dot home, right? And then a comma again. So this views is just this views that we imported, our views.py, right? And then this dot home, this home is this function that we created here on line 4. We're now importing it from our views.py into our urls.py, right? Then we have what? We'll create another URL path. We'll call it students with a forward slash, right? And it's going to be what? Views dot get students, right? We create another one, and it's going to be courses with a forward slash, right? And it's going to be views dot get courses, right? So when creating your URL, always include this forward slash. It's very important. Always include this forward slash, because if your URLs now get complicated, this forward slash can make a lot of difference, and it can cause a lot of errors. So it's important that you always include it, right? So if you go on your browser, for example, let's say if you just search, let's say tli.co.zw/home, right? This is what's going to be executed on line 6, right? And if you say tli.co.zw/students, this is the URL that's going to get executed. So Python is going to see this URL, okay, and then it goes to views.getStudents, and then this is the function that's going to execute. Whatever code is inside that function is the one that's going to execute, right? Right. Now we've created our urls.py, and we added what? Our 3 URLs, right? So we need to do one more thing, right? We need to connect our main Django project. So because right now our main Django project does not yet know that the student's application has its own URL file, right? This project config doesn't know that this app students has its own URL file. So we need to you need to open config. After opening config, you go to urls.py, right? But on config urls.py, it comes with what? With Django. Django creates it for us, right? After you've opened it for it, let me just remove these comments, right? After opening it, right, we already have some code already inside it, right? Like import admin, import path, right? So what we need to do is that here from Django.urls import path, we also need to import what? Include, right? So from Django.urls import include comma path, right? So here you just add include, nothing else, right? Then inside the URL patterns, right, this is where you are going to link your students app and your config project, right? So what you're going to do is going to say path. You are now creating another URL, right? So it's going to be path After path, just an empty string, comma, right? After comma, include, right? Open your brackets, and then your quotation marks again. Student, okay, students dot your URLs, right? So here are just telling Python that go to what, to the students app and check what, the URLs file. So Python is going to recognize the students, because if you remember on settings.py we added that app on line 29. So Python is going to recognize it, right? So here the most important part is this one, line number 6, right? Then always remember to save your code. It's very important, right? Are we all still together? Anyone with a question? It's more blessing. More blessing. Okay, then I think we can continue for now, right? On your terminal, right? Remember, you need to be on what? On the same file as what? manage.py, right? If you are going to run any scripts, any commands, you need to be on the same line as what? manage.py, right? You need to be on the same line with manage.py, right? Then you run what? Python manage.py run server and hit enter, and this is going to open what? A development server. Then you go to, it's written starting WSGI development server at http what, and then just over it press your control, then what? Right click your mouse, right? Then just like that we created our first server, right? So we received this message home. The message home is this one, the function on line number 4, the home function, return JSON response message home page, and this is what we received, right? Yes, more blessing.
Good evening, everyone. Can you now hear me?
Yes, we can. Okay, so to create the URLs.py, the py file, you need to create it inside your student's app, right? So to create that file, you use what? This new file on your sidebar on the top of your VS Code. This file, you just say new file, and then it's going to create what your URLs.py. If you just click it, is going to prompt you to enter something. You just say what? URLs.py, right? Then after writing URLs.py, you then just hit what? Enter. It's going to create the file for you, right? So you should make sure that you created the file inside what? Your app, right? But if you didn't create inside your app, you can then just right click out the file name and then move it into inside what? Your app, just like that. Then just like that, you have created your URLs right? And then inside the URLs.py, that's when you're going to import your views. Here when you're importing views, you are importing what? Views.py, where you create what? Your views. Your views are what? Your views are a function that is going to be returned by the API, right? Something like this. This is what is going to be returned. This is what the backend sends. If you are looking at this, you're going to think it's a Python dictionary, but it's not. This is what JSON, right? Remember that Python and JSON are similar, right? Then you come to urls.py, you create your path, and then this is where you define what? Your URL. If someone goes to, let's say, tli.co.zw/login, right? Whenever a login sends whenever the front end sends the login details, it will come to this URL, right? This URL that you would have defined on URL patterns, right? They need to have what? A views dot get, let's say, dot get login, right? Then this is where on views.py, where the logging in of the user is going to happen, where you check the credentials, etc, etc, right? So going back to our API, right? If we do search, let's say /students, right? See, we're getting back what? Students Brandon, John, Nyasha, Tadiwa. These students that we created here, we hard coded these students, right? So this is simply how an API works, right? So we are going to say the front end will send a request, the server will process that request and send back to the front end this thing. It will send it in this format, right? Then the front end is the one that's going to take this and fix the format for it to be what? To be user readable, right? So even if it's we say /what courses, right? We're still going to see what? The courses, and the courses what? Here, or the function on line 10, get courses, we returned what? The JSON response, right? So at this point, Django is successfully receiving get requests, right? So Django is successfully receiving get requests, emphasis on get, right? So a get request is normally used when we want to retrieve or read information, right? So a get request, right, is used when we want to get information, right? If you want to get information, we use what? A get request, and it's always what? Capital letter GET. So it's a capital letter get, right? So when you want to get information from a server, you use what? A get request, right? So by default, this is just a get request. We didn't change it to a put or whatever. So by default, it's going to be what? A get request. Now, I want us to make our API more useful, right? At the moment, if you go to, for example, let's say students, right? If we go to students, it returns all of the students, right? What if I want to only get Brandon, or I want to get John, I want to get Nyasha, or I want to get Tadiwa, right? We could create, let's say, a URL like this. For example, we can say /1, right? This is which means this is going to get only one student, the first student, right? But if we say 2, then this means that is going to get the student at number 2. If I say 30, then this means it's going to get the student at number 30, right? So you might think, okay, this is easy, this works, right? But imagine if you have 1,000 students, right, and you want to get a student, the student at number 500, or then tomorrow you want to get the student at number 50. That means you need to create 500 URL patterns for each student. So that's a lot of work, just repeating yourself over and over and over again. So that's just bad programming, right? So instead, Django allows us to create a Django allows us to create a variable inside the URL, right? So this is what you call a path parameter, right? Let me just say what URLs, right? This is called a path parameter, right? So let's go back to views.py, and inside views.py, right, we have what are get students, right? And I want us to create another function. We're going to call this one what get student, get what student, and it's going to take what request, and then this student ID, right? So it's just going to return JSON. It's going to return JSON response, right? And then it's going to return student ID, right? Student ID, right? And then a comma. Then we're also going to return the name, right? It's going to be an F string student, right? Student ID, right? Let me just get this fine, right? If you look at this view, right, okay, and if you save your code, then the server is going to reload itself for you. Like, you don't have to reload it, it's going to reload itself for you the moment you save your code, right? So if you look at this view, this function, it receives two parameters, request and student ID, right? So where the student ID comes from, it will come directly from the URL, right? So remember that student ID, this one is going to come from the URL, right? If I go to urls.py inside our app, right, then if I create another path, we're going to call it student, right? No, it's going to call it student your left facing arrow int, right, student ID, your right facing arrow again, right, slash comma views dot get student, right? Right. If you look closely at this part, at int student ID, right, this int, right, it means that we're only accepting an integer. We don't want a float, we don't want a string, we want an integer, right? And the name student ID, this one, student ID, becomes the variable that Django passes into our view, right? It's going to be the variable that Django passes into our view, this function, right? So that's where student ID is going to come from, right? So for example, if we go to our code and say student, right, and say student 2, right, enter, we're going to get what? The student ID to name student 2, right? If I change it to 7, we're going to get student 7, right? If I change it to whatever that number is, we're still going to get what? The same student, right? So which means that one view handles all of these what? URLs, all of these requests. This is extremely useful. So a path parameter normally defines a particular resource, right? So this is what? A path parameter, right? And it only defines a particular resource, right? So I also want us to look at our introduction to query parameters, right? We talked about what? A path parameter. I also want us to look at query parameters, right? So query parameters are also very important because you most of the times you interact with them, especially on your URL. Whenever if you use a laptop most of the time and you look at your nav bar or on your search bar, you are going to see query parameters, right? So I want us to look at this URL. Let me create another one, another URL here, path, right? Let's call this one, this is students question mark course equals to Python, right? So notice the question mark, this question mark, right? If you notice this question mark, everything after the question mark is part of the query string, right? So everything after the everything after the question mark is part of the query string, right? So this is what query parameters. So everything after the question mark is part of the string, right? So in this case is what? Course equals to Python, right? Is a query parameter. So course equals to Python is what? Is a query parameter, right? So the name of the parameter is going to be what? Course, right? And the value is going to be Python, right? Right. So we can have multiple query parameters, something like course equals to Python, and let's say city equals to Harare. We can have what? Multiple query parameters. And then the ampersand is what separates the two different query parameters. This ampersand, this ampersand is the one that differentiates the two query parameters, right? So this URL contains course equals to Python, city equals to Harare, right? So there's an important difference between a path parameter. Remember, this is the path parameter, and this is what the query parameter, right? So a path parameter, it identifies just what a number, right? Just identifies what a number. Just give me student number 5, give me student number 10, right? And the second one, it says give me students, right? Give me the students, but filter them with these query parameters. Filter them so that I only receive what? Students starting Python and students that live what? In Harare. So this filters what? It filters the students for you, right? So that's the difference between what? These two, right? Then, are we all still on the same page? Any questions before I go ahead? Yes, Mr. Changa.
Yeah, speaking on my behalf, I just want to confirm we're using the video only.
No, currently, no, the thing is, it's now what one big
Out.
file. So
Yeah.
I can say that I'm going to share the file after every lesson.
But you can share the video.
Yes, the video I can share it. So I'm going to be sharing
It's okay.
the video.
It's okay. That will be enough. It's for me today. I don't have any questions because I don't even know where to start. But it's very complicated. Let me try and go through the video tomorrow, and maybe I might come up with questions because I got lost a few some minutes ago.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Right. So let's go ahead. Right. I want us to continue with filtering students with request.get. Right, I want us to continue with filtering students using what? Request.get. Right. So for our query parameters, we're going to use views.get students. Right. So I'm going to I'm going to delete this one. There you go. And then I'm going to go back to our views.py. Right. So inside the views.py, right, we're going to create this list. We're going to create this list. Let's just say for now this is our database, right? Let's say this is our database. It's a list with a dictionary inside it, right? So we're going to have id equals to 1, right? Name equals to Brandon, right? Course equals to Python, right? City equals to Harare, right, comma, okay. This ID to name is equals to Nyasha Python Harare, name Tatenda, right, ID 3 Python, let's say Mutar, right. So here we have what, 3 students, Brandon, Nyasha and Tatenda, right. Now I want us to work with what, get students, not get student, get students, right. So I'm going to delete this, right. So I'm going to say course, I'm going to create a variable course equals to request dot get, right, dot get again what, the course, right. So I'm going to say city equals to request dot get, right, dot get what, the city, right. Create another one, request, no, it's good, these two, it's what, course and city, right. Then I'm going to have what, result is equals to what, students, this list, our list students is what, our result, right. So result equals to what, students, right. Then I'm going to say if course, right, result equals to student, right, student for student in result, student for student in result. Are you all still together? Right. Then I'm going to say if student, right, course dot lower, right, equals to course dot lower, right. Now the advantage with us learning Django is that in order for you to learn it, we have to build projects. So as I'm teaching you like this, we are simply what, just building a project. So you just need to break it down and try to combine the pieces and figure out what's actually happening. That's the advantage. Unlike before, by just learning what, just the theory, then do a project once or twice after 2 weeks, right. So here I'm also going to say if city, right, result equals to student, right, equals to is it student or students, okay, student, let's say for student in result, right? If a student city dot lower is equals to city dot lower, right? You also need to say right like this, right? And then we're just going to return what, and always remember that your view, at the end of your view, right, you're always supposed to return something, right? Return JSON response, right? And the JSON response is going to have students what result, right? So let's understand this carefully, right? So this line, which is course equals to request dot get course, right? What it's going to ask Django, did the user provide a query parameter code course, right? Our query parameter code what course. This is what Django is going to ask, right? If the user provided that query parameter, then that means that our course is the value for our course is going to be what, our course, which is what, Python, and then here for our city is going to be what, Harare, which is the query parameter as value, right? This is what Python is going to ask. It's just going to ask, did the user provide 123 So whenever we enter something on the URL, right, our view gets that URL, that request, that data or whatever, using the what, this variable, this request. So this request variable has access to everything that that this view is going to get, right? Here then we have what, result equals to students, right? So initially our result contains what, students. So our result contains what, the student list, right? Next we have what, if course, means that we only perform the course filter, right? This is what, the course filter, right? Let me just put it here, right? So this is the course filter, right? We only perform the course filter when the user actually supplied a course, right? Right. So which means this is only going to only keep students whose course what matches what whose course matches what, our course, right? So student course here is going to check what, here the course is going to check the course that the student is doing, right? If the course that the student is doing, it matches what, our course that's provided over here, then it's going to keep that user. And if it doesn't match the course provided, then it's not going to what, keep that user, right? So, and we also use dot lower to make sure that there aren't any mistakes in between those courses, just in case there's like here here we have capital letter Python, right? And just in case here, if we, let's say it was what, small letter Python, we don't get any what challenges, it's going to work accordingly, right? Then with city we perform what, the same idea. So here we said that it keeps only students, right, whose course matches the requested course. Right. So for city, we perform the same thing as what our course filter. So this is going to be our city filter, perform the course filter when the user actually supplies the course, etc., etc. Right. And then we return what? JSON.result. We just return the filtered result. Right. So let's test what? Our query parameter. So remember, whenever you're working with your Django code, the moment you press Ctrl S, Django is going to what? To refresh the terminal for you. Right. So remember that our endpoint is going to be what? Students, right? Yes, Mr. Changa.
So Control S is for confirm. Control S is for saving, is it?
Yes, that's correct. Control S is for saving.
Okay.
Okay. So we're now supposed to what? To test our query parameter, right? Let's test also our URL is what? Students course what, right? So you are going to say it's just going to be what? Students, right? Let's see what's going to happen if I just say students only, right? It's going to return what? Students not found, because if you check what? Page not found 404. Reason being is that if you go to our URLs, we don't just have what? A student's we don't have what? A student's view, right? We only have students slash with what? Query parameters. So here we get what? 404, right? And if you look at the error page, it says what? The current path students slash didn't match any of these, right? It didn't match any of what? Any of these, right? So now let's try and say students and then question mark, right? And let's say the course is equals to Python, right? Which what? Course in the city is equals to Harare. And city saying no students not found. Wait a minute. Just a minute. okay, saying okay, let's say remove this, or initially let's just leave it, comment it out. It say paths, no, paste it here, right, there we go. Let's say this, right, here we go. Like if you look at right our URLs, right, if you change what the course to Python, you get what name Brandon, okay, yeah, it's much better. You get all of the students who are doing what, the Python course, right? Then if we change the city, let's say city equals to, let's say Harare, right, we're going to get what, the students who only live in what, in Harare, right? If we change the city to Mutare, right, we're only going to get what, the student who lives where, in Mutare, right? So this is why query parameters are very useful, right? Instead of rewriting the same code over and over, you can just use one URL and you can be able to filter based on what, that one URL, right? So our code filters both what, the course and this and the city, right? So which means that we can use what, this API endpoint and allow the user to choose whatever information they want. If they only want the city, they will just say that they want the city, and if they want what, the course, they only say that they want what, the course, right? So any questions? Any questions? Okay, so no questions. Okay, that's fine. So this is what I prepared for you guys for today. So if you guys tomorrow can play around with this, try creating what are the project on your own, working with URLs and see how they work. So tomorrow I'm not going to have a lecture. I want to give you guys time to breathe and just take in what we learned yesterday and today, right? So get time to process it and save any questions that you might have. So if there are no any questions, then that's it for today, and I'll see you guys on Thursday 8 p.m.